Hi, I'm Jocelyn Hillian with At Peace Therapy Centers. Thank you so much for joining me today or tonight. This video blog is going to be about stories and belief systems. First, I'd like to just point out that I am also challenging stories and beliefs. I'm very passionate about this particular topic. But just showing up here tonight, transparent, it's 10 o'clock. I think that's when most entrepreneurs do their business. I don't know. That's when I do my business. But it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm wearing a t-shirt. I don't have makeup on, and I'm challenging the story or belief that in order for me to deliver powerful, insightful, meaningful information, I need to be dressed in a professional manner and look a certain way and present myself a certain way in order to get the message across. And I'm going to feel like that's not going to be true for me today, and I'm just going to show up here. So thanks again for joining me. So let's talk about some stories. Let's talk about what that means and what that looks like. First, I want to talk about, a lot of times people get confused. I adapted the term stories from a teacher I had in college named Bruce Rumsey, who would refer to my belief system as a story. And at first it really unsettled me. I didn't like that. I was like, oh, don't talk about my beliefs like that. Like, there's some story, they're made up. But the truth is, the more time you spend with that concept, you start to realize that a lot of the stuff that we sit with every day, a lot of the things that we carry over into our adult life, into our children's lives, into our work life, into our roles, have to do with stories or beliefs that we have created over time. And we do these for various reasons. But I love to challenge people's beliefs and stories. One way we do that is called rational emotive behavior therapy. But really just noticing that we have them can help us start to challenge them. So a belief is defined as a feeling of being sure that someone or something exists or that something is true. So that's a belief. And what's really interesting there is in the definition of belief, and I got those from the Webster's Dictionary, but in the definition it starts out as a feeling. And one of the things that we teach in DBT is that our feelings aren't facts, that they will flow, and they are designed to give us information and messages and relay information to our body so that we can make informed decisions or warn us or whatever the feeling or emotion may be. But it's not a fact. Two people can be in the same exact scenario, in the same exact situation, and walk out with two completely different emotional responses. And I know that's kind of jolting too to hear, like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. But our feelings are meant to flow freely and express a message and then go. So belief, the definition starts out with a feeling of being. So it's interesting. The definition of story is an account of incidents or events, period, which makes a lot of sense. Our life is a series of incidents and events, and we have taken those incidents and events and then we have developed more stories around what that means. For example, a lot of us have stories about being a mother, father, worker, lover. We have stories about our roles, what the ideal person looks like. Okay, a good worker should, a good mother should, a good father should. And we break that down, but a lot of times we're constricted and we're confined by these stories that we've created. And we try to live our stories in our lives usually by people that we have adapted them from. So our parents, our role models, our mentors in our lives, people that we have looked up to, or we've noticed that their life has been successful in some way, or they've had control in some way, and we've adapted those stories. Sometimes we adapt stories out of fear, so we have stories about emotions. One of the ones I see and hear on a regular basis is, it's weak if you cry, it's weak. Or men don't show weakness. Weakness is crying. Weakness is vulnerability. And those are all stories that we've created as well. We have a whole entire thing built up in our head about what a man looks like and what a woman looks like, and then this is the thing with our emotions. And I mean, one of the common things that I know everyone's probably heard, well, I can't say everyone, but most people, is when we get sad, right? Because we don't want people to be sad, and we don't like to see people we love suffering. That's just, we don't like it. But when we see that, we're like, what can I do to help you? What can I do to pull you out of this? And that's a belief that it's our job to pull people out of it. It's also our belief that we shouldn't be in a place like that. And we're telling that other person, oh, you know what, you shouldn't be in a place like that either. A lot of the times when we do that, what we're telling the other person is that their feelings or the way they're experiencing life at that moment is really invalidating. I mean, we're telling them that you shouldn't feel this way and it's not okay to feel this way. It makes me uncomfortable to feel that way. But it's invalidating. So ideally, we would not want to do those things. But that means the opposite, that we're going to have to sit with some type of discomfort. And we don't want to do that, right? It brings me to an interesting story. So, again, this is something I'm pretty passionate about, so I've been thinking about this for a long time, trying to limit it down to 10 minutes. But besides having stories about how we feel, stories about emotions, stories about our behaviors, and stories about our roles or who we are, we also have stories and emotions about, socially acceptable norms in society. And we have these for a reason. I mean, we want to keep the peace. We want to make people feel good. We want to be accepted. We want to be acceptable. We want to be contributing members. We want to feel good, right? But sometimes the stories and behaviors about the norms of society also affect us in different ways, and we can get resentful. And I've given this example in many of the classes I teach, but if we have the story or belief that people hold the door open for us and then they don't, we get resentful. We start to think, like, why wouldn't they hold the door open for me? Everybody holds the door. It's a socially acceptable norm. Or why wouldn't somebody let me in if I'm waving? But the truth is that could happen, and sometimes it doesn't happen. But if we want to think that that's an always, or people should behave this way, it gets us into a place where we put high expectations on ourselves, and we also put high expectations on others, and then we become resentful and angry. And then we're bound, and again, we feel constricted and confined by a lot of these stories. The other day, I have like a hamstring injury, and so I'm icing my knee all the time. And my daughter was really upset that I'm in pain, and she's like, Mom, you're always in pain, and you hurt yourself at CrossFit, and you should stop doing that. And I said, well, Bailey, tell me what it is about pain that makes you so uncomfortable. And she said, well, it hurts. And I said, of course pain hurts. And she's like, well, pain isn't good. And I said, well, how come you think that pain isn't good? She's like, well, because it hurts. And I said, that's interesting. Pain motivates action. And she goes, so pain's good? I said, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying pain motivates action. If I'm going to burn myself on the stove, if I get close to a stove and it gets hot, I move my hand away. That creates an action. I said, if we're not experiencing discomfort, why would we try to move in any direction? So she's like, oh, so pain kind of is good because it moves us. And I said, yes, but it also hurts, and we have emotional hurt and physical hurt. That doesn't mean it's bad, but we have to sit with that, and people will hurt our feelings. But we then learn, and then we move. The same with physical pain. And so it's interesting how so young, a 5-year-old would start to develop the concepts of, oh, because they had felt physical pain before, and she had, that wasn't something that she wanted to experience again. Who would, right? That's ridiculous. We don't want to experience a lot of pain. However, at the same time, there could be another story or another belief there that allows her to grow and develop in a different way, saying, you know what, we will experience this. This is probably a given, and we can choose to let that pain help us grow and move us forward rather than confine us and keep us frozen in fear. So we can have a lot of different responses based on these stories. So I hope that this gets you guys thinking just a little bit about some of the stories that you've created, some of the stories that may be limiting you. If you need more help figuring out what those stories look like, if you need more help challenging some of those, you know that I would love to see you. One of my staff would love to see you. I have amazing partners at Peace Therapy Centers that are phenomenal at challenging belief systems, and it's something that we really enjoy doing. So feel free, reach out, email me, jhilling@aptcenters.com, go to denvercounseling.com, and we will talk soon. All right, thanks guys.